The Trump administration continues to send federal law enforcement officers into Democratic-led cities across the country. They say it's part of an effort to control crime. In a social media post on Wednesday, the president said, quote, "The National Guard is now in place in Portland, Oregon." But for their part, Portland officials did not immediately confirm the Guard's presence. CBS News Justice correspondent Scott MacFarlane has been monitoring the situation in Oregon and also diving into potential causes for the influx of federal troops there. Scott, thank you for joining us today. Can you tell us more about what your team has found in Portland?
There's so much political rhetoric, heated political rhetoric at that, about a deployment in Portland and what the situation is on the ground in Portland in terms of crime. CBS News' Justice Department went through a series of federal case filings by the Department of Justice to find out what was happening in terms of allegations of crimes and in terms of the crimes themselves. What we found was more than a dozen federal cases filed since June, many of which, if not most of which, involved assaults against law enforcement agents, federal agents, but all of them in a small proximity, all of them outside the federal immigration facility and federal complex there, not citywide in terms of the Department of Justice cases. Those cases include some pretty ugly accusations: the wielding of a butcher's knife in a federal agent's face, kicking, pushing, shoving of law enforcement agents, grabbing of law enforcement agents, the type of thing that the Trump administration says needs to be gotten under control. But these cases happen in such a small area that could either underscore or illustrate why the National Guard is needed at the federal facilities.
And Scott, you've got some news for us about Portland law enforcement. What is happening with funding for departments like Portland's?
You know, the federal funding that goes to local police departments is a lifeblood for so many communities. Helps them pay for equipment, for upgrades, for facilities, in some cases to hire law enforcement. A new memo issued by the U.S. Attorney General indicates that federal grant money, those COPS grants as they're called, will go to municipalities, cities that support federal immigration initiatives, federal immigration agents. This could be a front of the line if you help support the Trump administration's immigration initiatives, back of the line if you don't. That could have quite an impact in areas that have tried to oppose this use of National Guard and federal ICE agents in their cities. It could have an absolute impact on Portland in the short term, but also for the years to come.
And finally, Scott, this is a case we're all watching closely. Do you have any updates on James Comey's arraignment?
1 week from today, the former FBI director is a criminal defendant in an American courtroom. It's going to be quite a scene. It is possible in the 7 days that await us before that arraignment that there is a new filing from the Comey defense team seeking to dismiss this 2-count felony charge. And what's more, it's also possible the Department of Justice can come in and add to those charges you see there with a superseding indictment with more charges and potentially more detail, because as it stands now, this is a very thin charging document. All we know is he's accused of obstructing a proceeding and making a false statement, but they haven't given any detail as to what the statement was, what actually was a violation of law in what the former FBI director said to Congress in 2020. And it's always possible they add more before he shows up in court.
We shall see how the case plays out. Scott MacFarlane, thank you so much for your time.